Now from Times Square, here's what you need to know.
Good to see you guys. Good to be with you. And how about those Knicks? The final score, 118 to 115. That's a comeback. Yeah, people are cheering here in the control room.
You know my heart is in Philadelphia.
I know. I know. Bless you.
Stop booing me.
As they say in the South, bless your heart.
Hey, I am loyal to the people who have been good to me forever and ever.
As you should be.
Dr. Darren, we do have some medical headlines to talk about. This is a really interesting new study about anger and how it affects you, even in a short amount of time.
Even short bursts of anger can affect your heart and more specifically our blood vessels. I want to show you about this study because it's from the Journal of American Heart Association, research done from Columbia and Yale. Fascinating stuff. In this study, they gathered over 280 participants, and they measured things like their blood pressure, their heart rate, and something called blood flow adequacy, which I'll get to in a second. And they also randomized them to different experiences, some being sadness, some being anxiety, and some being anger. And they found that those who were subjected to anger had specific malfunctions in their blood vessels that did not allow their blood vessels to dilate. Now, why is this important? That increases the risk of blood vessels hardening. That increases our risk of heart attacks, strokes, and cardiovascular disease overall.
So how do we bring it down? How do we de-escalate feelings of anger?
I'm happy that you asked that because de-escalating anger is not just about helping your relationships, especially if you're angry. Most often we're angry with the people that we love the most. It's also about protecting our heart. So some things we can all do. Number one, practicing our breathing. We talked about this before the show starts. DeMarco's not really a fan of breathing, but I'll speak to Eva directly about this. So practicing breathing techniques, specifically using our diaphragm, can help to separate you from that acutely angry situation. Also imagery, visualizing something peaceful, and then yoga-like exercises or meditation or mindfulness can definitely help to reduce your blood pressure, reduce your heart rate, and to get you out of that angry experience.
We actually teach our little girl, Daniel Tiger, we love that show. He says, if you get so mad that you want to roar, take a deep breath and count to 4.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, and it's exactly this.
I love that. We should have DeMarco watch that show.
Oh, shots fired already, man. Okay, I got you.
Daniel Tiger's actually good kids TV.
Well, thanks to the both of you. I'll take suit. Thank you, guys. Let's check it out with ABC's Jay O'Brien in Washington. He has a look at your latest headlines. Jay, they are getting on me, man.
I was laughing at that. I'm not going to lie to you. Good to be with you. We begin with the news here, and we begin with that life-threatening flood emergency in Houston, Texas. Our Sam Champion here with the latest.
10 reported tornadoes in 3 states, and that's just part of the problem. Flooding is likely to be even a bigger issue, but look at that giant storm in Hawley, Texas. This is very close to Abilene. Talking about the flooding, Houston is flooding, and watch this car drive right into the creek. They don't know it's there, but this is the reason you don't drive through floodwaters. Now, watch these strong storms continue to move east today. It's East Texas, Louisiana, back into some very heavy rain, but we'll watch the storms redevelop in the west. So watching damaging winds, large hail, isolated tornadoes in 2 zones. And Abilene to Wichita Falls, this could be 2 to 4 inches of additional rain. Next week, looking at more storms to light up in this area, and we're talking about an additional rainfall, additional severe weather. Guys?
And the travel nightmare for millions in the Northeast after a fiery crash shut down a key stretch of I-95 in both directions. Traffic at a crawl in Norwalk, Connecticut, north of New York City, after a fuel truck carrying thousands of gallons of gas burst into flames. You see it there, destroying a bridge. Officials are hoping to reopen that charged stretch of roadway by Monday. New crackdowns on college campuses across the country as police clear more encampments off school property. Arrests rising to more than 2,000 over the last few days. Officials say nearly half of the people arrested at New York's Columbia University and City College were not connected to the schools. And a new ABC News Ipsos poll shows Americans are divided when it comes to the Israel-Hamas war. A growing number, nearly 4 in 10, saying the U.S. is doing too much to support Israel in its war following that October 7th attack by Hamas. That's up from nearly 3 in 10 in January, with about a third of Americans saying the U.S. is doing too little to help Palestinians. And the new jobs numbers. The Labor Department reports U.S. employers scaling back on hiring in the month of April, adding 175,000 new jobs. That's less than expected. And the major sighting that has the nation's bird watchers celebrating an extremely rare blue rock thrush, native to Europe and Asia, but never spotted on American shores Until now, the amateur photographer blowing up the birding world with his discovery, guys. It is a great time for spotting beautiful migrating birds. Grab your binoculars and go have a great weekend. That's how I'm going to spend it.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, very therapeutic there. Jay, thank you very much. We appreciate it, man.
There's much more ahead here on GMA3 on this Friday. Former President Donald Trump's criminal trial. What's next?
And later, we'll meet the woman woodworker whittling away at prejudice, one project, one student at a time. We're back in a moment. Stay with us.
We've got the exclusive view behind the table. Every day, right after the show, while the topics are still hot, the ladies go deeper into the moments that make the View the View. The Views Behind the Table podcast. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Step into the world of Hollywood like never before with Melissa Rivers' Group Text podcast. Melissa, renowned for her red carpet expertise and storytelling prowess, invites you to join her and her famous friends for hilarious and heartfelt conversations. From discussing the latest binge-worthy TV shows, navigating the highs and lows of life, and dissecting celebrity fashion, there is never a dull moment. With exclusive stories from special guests like Chelsea Handler, Cheryl Hines, your favorite reality stars, and deep dives into intriguing topics like the Where is Wendy Williams documentary, this podcast offers an insider's look into the glitz and glam of Tinseltown. It's not just Melissa's podcast. It's a collective experience where you're invited to join the conversation. So, if you've ever wanted a peek behind the Hollywood curtain, subscribe to Melissa Rivers' Group Text podcast, now on your favorite platform. Get ready for laughter, tears, gossip. In other words, unforgettable moments that'll keep you coming back for more. Don't miss out. This is one group text you won't want to exit.
Welcome back to GMA3. Extortion, tabloid scandals, and gag orders are taking center stage at former President Donald Trump's hush money trial this week.
Things got a little heated in court on Thursday as lawyers cross-examined the attorney who brokered the $130,000 hush money payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels. And for more on this case, we're joined now by our senior investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky. He is outside the courthouse there in Lower Manhattan. Good to see you, my friend. We'll start with this one. We all know that the heart of the case is about the payment to Stormy Daniels, but what was said in court about the timing of the payment?
So, DeMarco, it wasn't so much what was said, but what the jury saw as Michael Cohen, Trump's former fixer, was negotiating this hush payment with the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, Keith Davidson. The jury saw the whole paper trail from the shell company Cohen opened at the bank across the street from Trump Tower to how he funded it with a home equity line of credit to finally the wire transfer. And when the $130,000 wire was received, Keith Davidson texted 2 words: funds received. That was the jury's first real indication that this hush payment actually existed. It was October 27th, 2016. That's 12 days before the election.
Okay, so Trump's attorneys try to draw ties between Stormy Daniels' former attorney and some unrelated celebrity tabloid scandals. What are they trying to prove here?
So rather than what prosecutors say, that this was a deliberate scheme to conceal damaging information from voters ahead of the election, the defense is trying to suggest that Donald Trump was the victim of a shakedown by an attorney for Stormy Daniels who was kind of steeped in celebrity muck. He had negotiated tabloid stories involving Charlie Sheen, Tila Tequila, the MTV reality star, and some other celebrities, Lindsay Lohan. And so the suggestion was that Donald Trump may have been the victim of extortion. Keith Davidson, of course, distanced himself from all those other tabloid scandals and said he wanted to invoke attorney-client privilege and couldn't talk about them.
And Aaron, we know that the gag order was the highlight of this week, but is Trump trying to get his social media posts pre-approved by the judge to avoid getting hit with more fines there?
He did, DeMarco, at one point. His lawyer stood up with a stack of papers and said these were articles that Donald Trump wanted to repost on his social media accounts. But some of them mentioned witnesses, some of them mentioned the jury, and they wanted kind of clearance from the judge in order to be able to post them without running afoul of the gag order. And the judge said he wasn't going to do it. He wasn't going to pre-rule. So, post at your own risk. And the judge had a bit of a warning for Trump. If you have any doubt that these articles are going to violate the gag order, you best err on the side of caution. The judge has already fined Trump thousands of dollars for violating the gag order, which prohibit him from posting about witnesses in the case or about the jury.
Let's talk about some of the other evidence in this case. Jurors were presented with recorded phone calls and phone data from Trump's former fixer, Michael Cohen. Was there anything unusual about those?
Well, it was the first time the jury had heard Trump in his own voice talking about one of the payments, and that's the one to Karen McDougal, $150,000, Eva, to keep her quiet and bury her story. That was arranged by the National Enquirer. And Trump is overheard on a conversation with Michael Cohen talking about the financing. Do we have to pay any cash for that? And Cohen says, no. But he had talked to Alan Weisselberg, the chief financial officer of the Trump Organization, about how to give David Pecker some money, which ultimately the Trumps did not do. The other recording was Cohen himself talking to Keith Davidson about how Trump would complain that he had to pay the $130,000 to Stormy Daniels in the first place. But Cohen said he told Trump, everybody says you had to do it. And prosecutors are trying to show here, Eva, that Trump was not some passive player in these deals, the way the defense suggests, but actually was intimately familiar with how these deals were negotiated and was involved.
Aaron, the trial is now in its 11th day. So who's up next, and could Trump take the stand?
Trump says that he wants to testify. He said that on at least 3 occasions so far, although when he left court on Thursday, he said he can't testify because of the gag order. And the judge reminded him as court got underway Friday morning that he has the absolute right to testify, and the gag order does not infringe that. We'll see if he actually takes the stand, if his defense attorneys allow it. We expect Michael Cohen himself. We expect Hope Hicks. We also expect Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal all to testify before the prosecution finishes its case.
It is safe to say the world is watching. Investigative reporter there, senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky. Good to see you, man. Thank you.
Too.
Just ahead on GMA3, there's something about the sound of a saw that thrills this trailblazing woodworker.
She calls herself the wooden maven, and she's carving out a following with the next generation. More GMA3 in just a bit. We're back now with a trailblazing artist in Atlanta, carving out a name for herself with some power tools and determination, all while introducing a whole new generation to the woodworking world.
There's something about the sound of the saw, the smell of the sawdust, that just ignites something in my soul that makes me feel good. I got involved in woodworking in 2003. I needed a bed. I could not afford the bed that I wanted, and I said, I could probably make that bed. I had never picked up a power tool before. It took me 3 months to build this bed, but I did it, and I slept on it for 7 years. A couple of years after I made that bed, I married my college sweetheart. We have 4 children together, and I kept having this conversation in the back of my head that I was gonna tell my husband, hey, I know we've got daycare and mortgage and private school and car notes, but I just want to wake up and put on sweats and make sawdust. And I was able to turn it into a career. So I'm a maker, first of all. Secondly, I'm a teacher. I also am a brand ambassador for many different brands.
Woodworkers like Char Miller King.
Today, we are creating a wooden bed frame. All right, any questions? The first time I taught children, I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. So where do I start? Well, the first start was talking to my kids' school about it. So remember, we talked about the 3 H's when we're woodworking, right? We have 12 kids in carpentry club. Those kids are learning how to use drills and miter saws. We never start the blade while it's touching the wood.
Learning from Miss King is really fun. She's really nice and an amazing carpentry teacher.
It's really fun to do something that only other people would think that boys are supposed to do. And then you show them that girls can do it too.
Anybody want me to cut their pieces?
Char, I think she does an amazing job of giving students a hands-on experience of cultivating their creativity and building their imagination.
In the beginning, I was met with a lot of challenges.
These little things stayed on there?
Oh, I'm used to being judged. I'm used to being overlooked, talk down to, mansplain, harass, all of it. I take it with a grain of salt because I'm raising little girls and I want them to be just as resilient. I want them to see that their mom is a trailblazer, that I am lighting the path for them so they won't know that it's odd for a woman of color to be in this field. My goal is to make woodworking accessible because it's not just good for making furniture, but it does something for the soul. It helps build confidence and spread skills to so many different other parts of life. Good job.
I love it, and bravo to that trailblazer
Yes.
there. And this summer, by the way, Shar will teach woodworking to inner city youth in South Atlanta, showing them a new set of skills and introducing them to the idea of pursuing careers in the construction trades. Love it.
That's so cool. Just ahead here on GMA3, what you need to know when it comes to treating bee stings.
Yeah, stick around for that. And women behind the wheel, making more opportunities for future champions to excel on the racetrack. Come on back.
Hey, I'm Andy Mitchell, a New York Times bestselling author.
And I'm Sabrina Kohlberg, a morning television producer. We're moms of toddlers and best friends of 20 years.
And we both love to talk about being parents, yes, but also pop culture.
So we're combining our two interests by talking to celebrities, writers, and fellow scholars of TV and movies.
Cinema, really.
About what we all can learn from the fictional moms we love to watch.
From ABC Audio and Good Morning America, Pop Culture Moms is out now wherever you listen to podcasts.
The first ever criminal trial of a former president is underway in Manhattan. It's one of potentially 4 trials facing former President Trump as he makes his third bid for the White House. What do voters think about his culpability, and would a guilty verdict make a difference in the election? I'm Galen Druk, and every Monday and Thursday on the 538 Politics podcast, we break down the latest news from the campaign trail. We sort through the noise and zoom in on what really matters, using data and research as we go. That's 538 Politics every Monday and Thursday, wherever you get your podcasts.
We're back now with Dr. Darian, taking a look at a new report that suggests that U.S. mortality rates fell in 2022 after a 3-year increase. So what's the latest on this story?
So these numbers are important to recognize. At first, it's grand. It's fantastic. You want these numbers to improve. You want these numbers to come down. We're talking about maternal mortality. But when you really look at the data, it's actually just the numbers rebounding back to where they were. So why did that happen? When you look at the pandemic, COVID-19, of course, poses a significant risk to pregnant mothers during their pregnancy and after their pregnancy, increasing their risk of death and harm. And it seems as though now that the pandemic obviously has calmed, that number now is approaching back to where it was. But a stark reminder, the numbers within this country are still some of the worst among high-income countries. And when you look at the overall data, Black women are still suffering the most when you look in terms of maternal mortality and postpartum depression and care that happens after the care. So
I was about to point that out there, yeah.
Yeah, it's really important. Again, I've always learned it this way. You can't change something you don't measure. So this data and these numbers are really, really important to make change.
What do you think it is that we have to do to change those numbers, to get them lower?
I think the first and foremost is access. When you look at the maternity care deserts that exist within this country, they're only growing. Reproductive rights, obviously, that comes into question, and that is a lot of discussion, not just from the legal standpoint, but it also affects people medically. We can see that when we don't have access to perinatal care and postpartum care, women suffer. And so I think it's really important to acknowledge these numbers and to figure out how we can improve it to make it better.
Is it also a case where women have to advocate for themselves, unfortunately, as well?
Yes, it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. Many women, especially during your pregnancy, not only do you have to care for yourself, but remembering that it's okay to ask for a second opinion and to always trust your gut. It's vital.
All right, Dr. Darian, thank you very much. We
Of course.
appreciate it. Back in a moment. Stay with us.
I'm in menopause! Okay? The shame has to be taken out of menopause. We have to talk about this very normal part of our life that happens. Our doctors can't even say the word to us, let alone walk us through the journey of what our menopausal years look like. That's why.
Welcome back to GMA3, What You Need to Know. Oscar winner Halle Berry right there, making her voice heard on Capitol Hill, trying to end stigma around menopause. She's working with female senators to try to expand research and funding to the tune of $275 million.
So important.
Yeah. Dr. Darian, you are back with our prescription for wellness.
It's the weather's getting nicer, so bees are out. So I thought it would be a good time to just review how to take care of a bee sting. Many people think that they know, but sometimes there's common mistakes that are made. So the first thing that you want to do is removing the stinger. You can use a hard object, for example, cleaning a credit card and using it. One thing here that you want to make sure you don't do is grab tweezers. When you use tweezers, you can unfortunately squeeze more venom into your skin. That can cause more discomfort.
That was the best way to do it.
And more pain, so you don't want to use tweezers.
Use a credit card?
So you basically, all you need to do is grab a credit card or hard object against your skin and just in the direction away from the stinger, away from you, just slide it across, and it usually will bring the stinger out.
Wow.
Yeah, you just don't want to use tweezers to squeeze it. But next thing you want to do is wash the area. Making sure that it's clean. Because one of the things that I have to see in the emergency room is not necessarily the bee sting itself, but the complicating infection from trying to pick it out from fingers or using dirty objects. And then after you're done removing it, you can apply, for example, a cold ice pack just to help decrease swelling. But of course, if you notice that you're swelling in other places, that could be a sign of an allergic reaction that needs to be promptly addressed. And then the last thing is you can consider taking over-the-counter medications, things like ibuprofen, the active ingredient in Motrin, if you have any discomfort or pain. But again, just mainly watching for signs of an infection. Redness, discomfort, pain, swelling. If that persists or continues, you might have a complicating infection that needs to be treated.
And I slightly get the credit card, but you say you could also use a gauze?
You can use a gauze too. Thank you for bringing that up. So gauze is something that you can, it's different from tissue. Gauze has small holes in it, and that allows it to catch things. That's why we use it in the hospital to clean dirty wounds. And so you can get gauze, it's sterile from any kind of over-the-counter supply store or pharmacy, and you can use that to clean the area or even drag out the stinger.
Or just stay away from bees.
Or just stay away from bees.
Run.
Yes, run, Doc, thank you.
Of course.
And folks, we would love to hear from you, so hit us up on Instagram with all of your medical questions for our medical unit at ABC GMA3.
Just ahead here on GMA3, stepping on the gas to get more women drivers behind the wheel at the racetrack.
And the one and only Kim Fields joins us here in studio. Her Netflix series, The Upshaws, getting the laughs. When we come back, stay with us.
Welcome back. Formula One has become one of the most popular sports in the world with intense rivalries, million-dollar cars, and expertly trained drivers. It's also a mixed gender sport, giving both men and women a chance to compete.
But there isn't always equal funding to bring them onto the track. So F1 Academy and the organization More Than Equal are stepping up to change that.
There's always stress. There's always adrenaline. There's always kind of nerves. There weren't really any women in the sport when I started, or not that I raced against. I was the only girl more often than not. My name is Jamie Chadwick, and I am a racing driver for Andretti Global in Indy Next.
Jamie Chadwick wins the first W Series race. Out of the final corner, Jamie Chadwick.
The accolades don't mean a huge amount. I don't care so much for being the first woman to do anything. I don't see that as being necessarily not a compliment, but like a positive thing. I see it as, if anything, being a negative thing, because really there is no reason why I should be the first woman to do all these things.
Motorsport is one of the world's only mixed gender sports. There are very few sports in the world where men and women compete on equal footing, so it has this massive opportunity that it is sort of missing. We found a range of barriers that have blocked the progress of women and girls in the sport. The primary one is the very small participation pool, so less than 10% of all female participants in motorsport are female. We spent a lot of last year, our initial year of our organisation, researching the barriers. So why is it that women have failed to kind of climb the ladder of the sport into Formula One? What stopped them? Largely people come into the sport through karting, so you can take that up from a very young age before moving on to open wheel racing. I think we're now seeing different initiatives for women in the sport.
When I was kind of progressing through the sport, there was Claire Williams at the helm of Williams Racing that then took me on into being a young driver, so I had sort of a mentor, someone to look up to in a senior role in a Formula One team, and also Susie Wolff was actually testing in the Williams at that time. So I was lucky I had sort of role models of people, women visible in the sport. There's a lot of initiatives going on, but there isn't really anything tackling absolute grassroots level. So that's the bit that I wanted to try and kind of help where we could.
So you've never done anything like this?
All of your helmets split up.
You have to see a young woman achieving something to think, maybe I can do that. But I was one of those annoying little girls that was hugely competitive. I loved speed, I loved adrenaline, so I got my first go-kart at 8, and that was for me the start of the journey.
Susie Wolf was a very experienced driver and has now come back in to lead the Formula One Academy.
Put your marker up.
16.
With what Jamie Chadwick is doing now, so setting up a whole initiative to get girls into grassroots and to help them to see that there's a ladder for them. We need more Jamie Chadwicks though, we need another 10 or 20 of her.
You needed to go far, you want to go faster, so you need to come back and do it again so you can go quicker.
Turned up to a few of these events and there's been young girls and I felt like I've got imposter syndrome. I'm like, well, why they don't necessarily want to listen to me or hear from me.
It's a bit tight. There you go.
It takes one or two of those girls to come up to me and say if they're inspired into the sport.
I think
How was it?
Good.
Good.
And that's enough for me to kind of relax a little bit and think this is something I'm really proud to try and kind of wave the flag for.
Oh, love to see it. You can catch the Miami Grand Prix Sunday at 4 p.m. right here on ABC and ESPN.
So much fun. Just ahead here on GMA3, our Faith Friday conversation on grief.
And she's been in our lives for decades now on some of our favorite shows. The one and only Kim Fields is here. Come on back.
No chopping, no peeling, no mashing, no dishwashing, no bother. Centra's selected range of freshly prepared meals are now only €2 for €8. Mix and match tasty curries, rich lasagnas and more classics. Made by our experts to make dinner easy. Shop smart, feel good at Centra. Offer available until May 1st.
Welcome back. It's Faith Friday here on GMA3, and our next guest is a hospital chaplain and blogger who's helping folks through a topic that's pretty tough, decoding grief.
Yeah, and in his new book titled As Long as You Need, he shares stories from the hospital bedside and offers ways to practice self-care during loss. Please welcome J.S. Parks. J.S., good to see you.
I'm very happy and honored to be here. Thank you.
Of course. So this book came out of your training as a hospital chaplain. What did you learn about grief and why did you want to focus on that?
Yeah, the biggest thing I learned about grief at bedside is that there is a particular social and cultural narrative that grief needs to be suppressed and stuffed down, to be jettisoned and severed. And it seems to be that we want to get rid of grief as if it's something toxic in order to re-enter back into hustle and productivity. But what I've learned as a chaplain, the most important thing we can do when we're grieving is to feel it, is to let it come as it is, and to take our time with it, not to suppress it, but to enter it. And how do we feel not ashamed, but instead validate and name the things that we experience when we experience something as big as loss?
Yeah, you just said that we should allow ourselves to feel it. I mean, we're all human in this life. We are all going to experience grief. How can you let yourself feel that?
Yeah, grief is a very scary thing to feel. But usually what I see in my patients are two pains. One is the pain of the loss itself, death of a loved one or death of dreams or loss of our autonomy, our mental health. But then there's additional burden that we put on ourselves or that larger social narratives put on us that we need to suppress and stuff down the grief because it's something that we need to get rid of. And so we can experience the pain of the loss rather on its own terms instead of trying to stuff it down. So we name it. We say what we're feeling, where do we feel it in our body, and then we validate the hardness of it. And we create community collectively together where we can actually say, I see that you're hurting and it hurts, and I want to know what is hurting.
And I can't tell you how many times you hear people say, get over it, which is extremely tough there. So what is your advice, your words of wisdom for those who are dealing with a loss, and the loss could have happened 10 years ago, 10 days ago? How do you get through it?
Yeah, every loss can feel as fresh as the first day, 10 years from now, 50 years from now. And so I would say that for that kind of advice, I can see why we say that sort of thing. It hurts to see someone hurt. When we see someone spiraling, when the ground opens up and we experience that loss, there's something in the silence where we want to offer words that we think are helpful. But I think really the most helpful thing is to be able to talk about, here's this thing that hurts, it's still hurting. It's still as fresh as the first day. And to allow those waves to come, they say grief, there's good days and bad days, it comes in like waves. And to be available and present to that, and to sit in the hardness of it instead of looking away.
And what if you have children? I'm sorry, what if you have children who are grieving?
Yeah, so my wife and I last Easter, we suffered a miscarriage. And our 2-year-old daughter, she grieved that loss of what could have been the sister she was supposed to have. And so we talked with her about that loss very openly. And she was, at least to my surprise, so emotionally intelligent and open to talk about it. Children do want to have that conversation. They're ready to talk about it. And so we were very open at eye level, talking with her about her loss. How are you feeling? What can we do? How can we honor the loss that we just had?
All right, J.S. Parks, thank you very much. It's so important what you're doing, and we appreciate you for that.
Thank you. God bless.
Of course. By the way, you can pick up a copy of As Long as You Need everywhere that books are sold.
Up here next, a familiar face in the entertainment world.
Yes, fan favorite Kim Fields joins us here in studio on her Netflix hit, The Upshaws. Come on back, everybody.
Pancakes, scrambled eggs, grits, Aaliyah's got a boyfriend, bacon, sausage.
Can you put it all in between a pancake and make me a sandwich?
All of it. I don't think you heard everything I said.
I did.
And you're good with Aaliyah having a boyfriend.
I don't care who brings my plate up. Just let me go lay down. Aaliyah's got a boyfriend?
Welcome back. That was a clip from part 5 of the Netflix hit comedy series, The Upshaws. It tackles parenting, relationships, family life, all while bringing the laughs.
A ton of laughs. And our next guest stars in the series, and she's here to tell us more about it. They call her the queen of sitcoms, known for beloved classics like 227, The Facts of Life, and Living Single. Please help us welcome to the studio, actress, director, and entrepreneur, Kim Fields. I couldn't even get the name out. I'm like, Kim Fields, everybody. Good to see you. You really are the GOAT.
Oh, thank you so much.
And you don't age.
Thank you. Well, amen to that.
So let's talk about your character. I mean, you struggle with your career, relationship issues, a heart attack. What's next?
Oh my goodness, lots more. You know, that's the great thing about doing a series, because there's so much life to unpack when you create an interesting character. And I think that Mike Epps, Wanda Sykes, the rest of our incredible writing team, Regina Hicks, everyone has really worked hard to breathe such incredible life into our characters that you want to know what's next, you know, what happens next. She's far more involved in her work at a clinic. As a former hospital administrator, she's doing a lot more to be present, you know, with her family and try to manage her stress.
Something also really exciting that you recently shared on social media is that you have a family member that's joining you on set, your niece Casey.
Yes, my niece Casey.
What is that like?
First of all, I know that you're trying to be all cool right now because you're like, so something happened on social media. I'm like, are you talking to me? I can't even hear you. But it's trying to be cool.
I'm trying to be cool with
I know, because he was so excited to be here. There it is. Look at you gushing. Look at you gushing. You're blushing. You're blushing.
If I could.
My niece Casey is part of this the show this season. That's my sister Alexis, her mom, and so Casey is in the background there, and she plays young me. And I wanted to have like a when I found out we were doing this episode, I thought maybe Casey can audition for it, because Katharine Hepburn, who I always followed her career. And very inspired by her. On the movie Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, her niece played her daughter. And I thought, oh snap, this is my Katharine Hepburn moment. And Casey was wonderful in the role.
Oh, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
You have done so many amazing roles. That's part of why Dr. Darian over here is losing his mind. Is because
I'm sweating.
I mean, there's just so many great shows you've been a part of. Yeah. How do you choose what to work on? What keeps you interested?
Yeah, I know at this point in my career, I think like a lot of us, when we get to a certain space, either chronologically or experience-wise, well, hopefully we all get to this place where you want to go into uncharted waters, what's new? What haven't I done? Yes, it's scary, it's incredible, it's amazing, it feels great, but it also can help keep that fire in your belly, that passion going. And so when I'm looking at scripts and projects or developing for myself or even for others, but I'll wear a different hat as a producer, director, writer, I'm always thinking about, well, what haven't I done? And even though I've been in the game for, well, we won't say how long, but just for a long time, there's still so much I haven't done because I was blessed to start so young.
So is that part of your advice for those when you think about longevity? I mean, you've been around for a good minute and just successful. I mean, your projects just keep coming and coming.
Well, thank you. Yes, my advice is absolutely keep it interesting by going into uncharted waters. Don't be afraid of the unknown. I once did a film called Adventures in Christmasing, and the leading man says, don't be afraid of the unknown. You know, because there's so much out there. There's a wonderful quote by Mr. Walsh that says, life begins at the end of your comfort zone. Come on, let's go, let's get out there.
I like that.
If I sound like a Nat Geo explorer, it's because I love National Geographic, and I know I can say that here because they're in your family.
Say that again, say it louder for the people in the back. Kim Phillips, thank you very much.
Nat Geo guys will be very happy you said that.
Absolutely.
You can breathe now. Thank you very much. We're so happy that you're here.
Thank you.
By the way, The Upshaws is streaming now on Netflix.
That is what you need to know for this week. I'm Eva Pilgrim.
I'm DeMarco Morgan.
And I'm the president of Kim Field's fan club, Dr. Darian.
Yes, he is. For all of us here at ABC News, including the GOAT right here, Kim. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week, everybody.
Are you always that gracious with your fans?
Step into the world of Hollywood like never before with Melissa Rivers' Group Text podcast. Melissa, renowned for her red carpet expertise and storytelling prowess, invites you to join her and her famous friends for hilarious and heartfelt conversations. From discussing the latest binge-worthy TV shows, navigating the highs and lows of life, and dissecting celebrity fashion, there is never a dull moment. With exclusive stories from special guests like Chelsea Handler, Cheryl Hines, your favorite reality stars, and deep dives into intriguing topics like the Where is Wendy Williams documentary, this podcast offers an insider's look into the glitz and glam of Tinseltown. It's not just Melissa's podcast. It's a collective experience where you're invited to join the conversation. So, if you've ever wanted a peek behind the Hollywood curtain, subscribe to Melissa Rivers' Group Text podcast, now on your favorite platform. Get ready for laughter, tears, gossip. In other words, unforgettable moments that'll keep you coming back for more. Don't miss out. This is one group text you won't want to exit.